Welcome back. This is your math tutor Naresh. This is the second video of quadratic factoring trinomials where a happens to be 1. So in this video, we're going to do some practice questions. So let's get started. So example 1, we are given x squared plus 7x plus 12. So factor this. So first recognize that it is a trinomial, ax squared plus bx plus c format. So it's quadratic. We make two sets of brackets and we put x and x as the first term in each bracket. So now copy the last term, which is 12. So now we want to find two numbers that multiply to give us 12, and when we add those two numbers we want to get the coefficient of the middle term, right? So what are factors of 12? So 12 factors are, let's say, 2 and 6. 2 times 6 we get 12, but when I add these, if I add these I get 8, not 7. And if I subtract I get 4, right? So this combination doesn't work. Now what are other factors of 12? 2 times 6, so 3 times 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, and when I add 3 plus 4 I get 12. So come over here, so write 3 and 4. 3 times 4 is 12, 3 plus 4 is 7. So this is plus 3 and this is plus 4. So simply these numbers, they go there, right? And because we're practicing and this is the first question, I will check. So let's check. To check, we simply multiply, and when we multiply, when we collect like terms, we should end up with the question that we were given, right? So x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, 3 times x is 3x, 3 times 4 is 12. Now collect like terms, x squared, these two terms are alike, 4x plus 3x gives me 7x plus 12. And this is what we were given to begin with, x squared plus 7x plus 12, right? So that checks. Okay, so now let's continue and do some more examples. So example 2, so x squared minus 2x minus 8. So again, it's quadratic, x squared plus bx plus c form, right? So we need to have x and x here inside the brackets. And now we want two numbers that multiply to give us negative 8. And when we add, we want to get negative 2, right? So what are factors of 8? So factors of 8 are 4 and 2, 1 and 8. 1 and 8 is not, 1 is always a factor. So 1 times 8 is not going to work because if I add 1 and 8, I'll get 9. And if I subtract, I get 7. So, but what I want is this negative 2. So other factors of 8, 2 and 4, right? So 2 times 4 is 8, but I want negative, so I can put a negative on either on 2 or the 4. So let's try negative on the 2. So negative 2 times 4, that will give me negative 8. But what about when I add them? Do I get positive 2 or negative 2? So in this case, I get positive 2, and that does not work. We want negative. So notice I did this on purpose. I chose to put negative on the 2, just so that I can make a point here. So you want to end up with negative 2, right, when you add them. So it makes sense that negative be placed on the larger number, right? Because when we add, we want to end up with the negative number. So if we have a negative on the larger number, then when we add to a negative 4, we'll get a negative 2. So that's something you can think ahead, right? You don't always have to try all the possibilities. So I didn't have to try 1 and 8, right? In this case, I could have gone straight to 2 and 4 and then figure out where the negative is going to go, on the 2 or on the 4, right? So we want negative 2, so negative should be placed on the higher number. So that pair is going to work. Okay, so all right. So we write 2 and negative 4. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. 2, and negative 4. When I add, I get negative 2. So once you find these two numbers with the correct sign, then simply place them here. So x plus 2, x minus 4. So that's the answer there, and we are done with that question. Okay, so let's look at number 3. So t squared minus 9t plus 20. Now, for the first time I'm using letter t in this quadratic factoring. It doesn't matter. The variable can be whatever variable of the alphabet, right? But what's important is that this is the square term, this is t to the 1, and this is the constant, right? So it's just like x squared 9x plus 20, right? Okay, so it's trinomial and a is 1, so make two sets of brackets. So here we'll have t and t, and now copy the last term, so that's 20. So we want to find two numbers that multiply to give us 20, and when we add, we want to get negative 9. So factors of 20, 5 and 4, right? There's 1 and 20, there's 2 times 10, but I'm going to jump straight to 5 and 4, because 5 and 4 will make 9, right? So, okay, so I want positive 20, I get that, but when I add 5 and 4, I get positive 9, but I want negative 9. So it looks like both of them should be negative. So try that. Negative 5 times negative 4 gives me positive 20, right? Negative times negative is positive. And when I add negative 5 and negative 4, I do get negative 9. So the numbers are negative 5 and negative 4. So negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. When I add negative 5 and negative 4, I get negative 9. So t minus 5 and t minus 4 are the factors. Okay, so let's move on. So now let's do example 4. So factor t squared minus t minus 12. So now we know it's a trinomial, right? So make two sets of bracket, t and a t, copy the last term, negative 12, and when we add, we want to get negative 1. So what are the two numbers that multiply to give us negative 12? So factors of 12. So I can try 3 and 4, right? So 3 and 4 is better than 2 and 6, because 2 times 6, they're 4 units apart, whereas 3 and 4, they're only 1 unit apart, and that's what we want the middle term to be, right? So that's another way of thinking ahead. So 3 times 4. Okay, so when I multiply, I want negative 12. So one of them has to be negative. Okay, so now should I put negative on the 3 or on the negative 4? I want, when I add these, I want overall result to be negative. So the negative is going to go on the higher number, right? So now let's try that. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. When I add 3 and negative 4, I get negative 1. So that's the way to do this. So 3 and negative 4. Now this is plus 3, and this is minus 4. So the factors are t plus 3 and t minus 4. Okay. Now let's do next example, 5. So, okay, factor x squared plus 11x plus 28. So x squared, bx, c format, so we know it's quadratic. So make two sets of brackets, x and x, copy the last term, 28. So what we're looking for is two numbers that multiply to give us 28, and when we add, we want to get 11. So what are factors of 28? There is 2 times 14, there is 7 times 4, so I'm just going to jump straight to 7 and 4, right? So 7 times 4 is 28, 7 plus 4, they add to give me 11, so that's what I want, 7 and 4. So this is pretty straightforward. So plus 7 here, plus 4 here, so the factors are x plus 7 and x plus 4. So that's the final answer there, okay? Alright, so let's continue. So example 6, so x squared plus 3x minus 88. So again, is it quadratic? Yes, it is. So we need two sets of brackets. we'll place x and x here, copy the last term, negative 88. So we want two numbers to multiply, that multiply to give us negative 8, and when we add those numbers we want a positive 3. Okay, so factors of 88. What about 11 times 8? 2 times 44 is also a factor, but 2 and 44, they're 42 units away. We want something, two numbers that are 3 units away, right? 11 times 3. So 11 and 3 are 8 units away. All we got to do now is, 11 times 8. So 11 times 8 is 88, so they're 3 units away. All we got to do now is figure out the sign. Okay, so we want multiply, we want negative 88. So one of them has to be negative. But when we add, we want a positive number. So that means the negative should go on a smaller number. So that would mean on the 8. So 11 times negative 8 is negative 88. 11 take away 8 is positive 3. So 11 and negative 8. So now plus x plus 11 and x minus 8 are the factors. And we are done with that question. Okay. So now let's look at number 7. So what about x squared plus 7x minus 30? So is it quadratic? Yes, it is, because it's ax squared plus bx plus c form. Copy the last digit, negative 30. So we want two numbers that multiply to give us negative 30 and to add to give us 7. So we're looking for two numbers. So 10 times 3, are they 7 units apart? 10 take away 3 is 7, yes. So there you go. So 15 times 2, I could have tried that, but 15 and 2, they're 13 units apart, right? So 15 take away 2 is 13, or 15 plus 2 is 17. So but I want something that is 7 units apart. So 10 times 3. Okay, so one of them has to be negative, but when I add them I want a positive number. So again, the negative should go on a smaller number. So let's try and see if it works. 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. 10 take away 3 is 7. So yes, it works. So 10 and negative 3. So x and x, and now we have plus 10 minus 3. So those are the factors. X plus 10 and x minus 3 are the factors. Okay, and that's the final answer. Okay, so alright, let's continue. So what I'm trying to do here is give you a lot of practice, and what you should do is copy these questions and pause the video and do them at the same time, or go back, right? So it's easy to watch me do them, but it's it's different. And you'll learn more when you actually write it out. So that's the best way to learn, that you do the questions yourself. Watching somebody do them, that's an easy task. Okay, so what number was I at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I'm on number 8. Okay, so this is t squared minus 3t plus 2. Alright, so is it quadratic? Yes, it is, because it's the square term, t to the 1, and then the constant. So t, and the coefficient is 1. So copy the last term, which is 2. So we want to find two numbers that multiply to give us 2, and to add to give us negative 3. Okay, so what are factors of 2? Factors of 2, it's 2 times 1, right? So 2 times 1 is 2, there aren't any other factors. Okay, so when I add these two, I want negative 3. So it looks like both of them are going to be negative, right? So negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, and when I add negative 2 and negative 1, I get negative 3. So it's negative 2 and negative 1, so t minus 2 and t minus 1 are the factors. Okay, so now let's look at number 9. Okay, so we have m squared plus 16m plus 63. So we're using letter m, but is it trinomial? Is it quadratic? Yes, it is. Ax squared, bx, and c, right? M squared, m to the 1, constant. So yes, it is quadratic, so make two sets of brackets. The first term will be m and m, because m times m gives us m squared. Now copy the last term, 63. Two numbers, so we want to find two numbers that multiply to give us 63, and when we add those two numbers we want to end up with 16. So what are those two numbers? So factors of 63, 1 times 63. Why would we even bother with this, right? Because they are 62, 64 units apart. So, right, I'm just exaggerating here, so why would we do that, right? So other factors of this, what about 3 and 21? Yeah, 3 and 21. They are 18 units apart, or 24 units, right? So, and that's not going to work either. So what about 9 times 7? Right, so I already knew that, but I just did the other two just to show you, right? It's trial and error. So 9 times 7 is 63, and when I add those two, 9 plus 7, that's 16. So 9 and 7. So you just stick 9 here and stick 7 there, and that's the answer. So m plus 9 and m plus 7. Okay. All right, so now we'll start with number 10. So it's becoming repetitive, so I will do maybe just a couple more, 3 more, 4 more. So x squared plus 7x plus 10. So this was number 10. So is it trinomial? Yes, it is. So x and x, copy the last term, so that's 10. So find two numbers that multiply to give us 10, and when we add those two numbers we want to get 7. So 5 times 2, right? Factors of 10 are 5 and 2. 5 plus 2 add to give me 7. So okay, that was easy. So stick 5 here and then stick 2 in the second bracket. So the factors are x plus 5 and x plus 2. Okay, so now let's look at another example. Number 11. So we have x squared plus 3x minus 10. So is it quadratic? Is it trinomial? Yes and yes. So two sets of brackets, x and x. So copy the last term, negative 10. And we want two numbers that multiply to give us negative 10. And when we add those two numbers, we want to end up with a positive 3. So 5 and 2 are the factors of 10. One of them needs to be negative because I want multiplied to give me negative 10. But when I add them, I want a positive 3, not a negative 3, a positive 3. So that tells me that negative has to go on the smaller number, right? So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, and when I add these 5 and negative 2, I get positive 3. So that's my combination, 5 and negative 2. So once you found those, then you simply stick them here, x plus 5 and then x minus 2. So that's the answer there for number 11. Okay, so maybe I think I have time to do another 1 or 2 questions. Okay, so that was 11. So now let's look at number 12. X squared minus 2x minus 24. So the first question, is it quadratic? Is it trinomial? And the answer is yes. So two sets of brackets, x and x. Copy the last term, negative 24. And now we want to find two numbers that multiply to give us negative 24 and to add to give us negative 2. So, okay, factors of 24. So 8 times 3, but they're 5 units apart, right? So, okay, so what about 6 times 4? Oh, 6 and 4, they're 2 units apart. So it's worthwhile playing with that first, right? So 6 and 4. Okay, so that one of them has to be negative. So, but when I add them, I want to end up with negative 2. So I want to end up with an overall a negative answer when I add. So that tells me that my negative sign should go on a larger number, right? So let's try and see. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. When I add a negative 6 and 4, I do get negative 2. So that's my combination, negative 6 and 4. So this becomes x minus 6, and this becomes x plus 4. So that's the combination there. Okay. So I'll do one more question, number 13. and this will be the last one. Actually, no, I think that's enough examples. I'm going to stop here, and so I hope you found the tutorial useful. If you did, please like or subscribe, and I just want to say thank you for watching the video, and please do practice, pause the video, go back. You'll learn more when you do the questions yourself. So once again, thank you for watching.